Hello everyone. This is something new that I decided to do, and so I am maxed out player with some of my stuff at plus 10, plus 15, and with the new update of escalation, we have Nintendo Switch players downloading Dauntless, and so what I thought of doing was that for both the veterans and the newcomers, why not go ahead and do a little tutorial and tips and with pretty much all the weapons of what behemoths to fight, what should you do against them, and what are better against said behemoths, I guess you can assume. So I'm gonna just go into the list of like which behemoth that go from left to right. Of course, I'll be starting off with left with which is Boreus. Now, Boreus is an ice behemoth, and in terms of weapons, I will also go from left to right. And so I will go with the Dreadfrost Boreus right in the middle because that's mostly where people are in terms of where they're. Dreadfrost Boreus Dire is not super hard, but it's also not super easy. So let's start with Private Hunt, and let's give it 30 seconds to load in. Now, for my gear, you're most likely not going to have the same gear as me, but I'm not really going to go much into detail in terms of gear. What I'm trying to do is go more into just the overall aspect of how to play which weapon in certain situations. So here I have the Inferno's Razor, which is the Helion sword that you get, of course, after beating Helion. I have it upgraded plus 10, and then I have the Malkirion helmet, which gives me Grace. And that Grace, this is just a playground build, so it's more or less just for fun. It's not necessarily a quote-unquote meta build that people might think. But overall, the set comes with Grace, Overpower, Rage, Rage Hunter, Sharpen, all at plus 6, with Conditioning plus 3, and Engine Edge plus 3. And now let's go through the hunt. Okay, so now we're in the hunt, and we're gonna just load in, and we're gonna go try to slay it. Now, Dreadfrost Boreas is one of those behemoths in the game that most people usually hate due to the fact that of how he's played in the game. Dreadfrost Boreas used to be a whole lot worse, but due to the nerfs and changes and reworks that Phoenix Last has gone through, they've changed him quite a bit. Now, these ice areas, they're good for farm materials and all, but like once you get towards endgame, you're gonna need those Wrath Wards. And so, but luckily in the next coming up updates, if you go to the Dauntless roadmap, if you type that into their search bar, you can find what Dauntless has planned and what's in store. So here's Dreadfrost Boreas, Dire Patrol, and so what I like doing against Boreas is that you always want to dodge into the attack with sword, and then press square. That way you get just a tad bit more movement. And always dodging into attack always allows you to do just that tad bit extra damage when you're rolling into it. And then now, let's see, you have these little minions. There's 3 minions. You have these fat ones, the skinny ones in the back, and then you have these spitters. Now I don't know if he's going to spawn the spitters or not, since this is a solo run. But what I can say is that this is the mode that what makes Boreas hated. This ice form makes him almost immune, blocking about 80% of your damage, your total damage. Now, there's 2 ways to get rid of this. You can either just melee like how I'm doing and be a complete idiot about it, or you can be a bit smarter and kill these minions. Now, these minions are very, very pesky. They will attack you, interrupt you out of your combo, and sometimes kill you. Swap a tonic so I don't die. But if you do manage to kill them, they give you a buff which deal a flat amount of damage to Boreas' armor. And these big guys, if you hit them into Boreas, if I can get it right. Oh, too far. Oh no, I got it. So that deals a flat amount 500, which is a big help surprisingly. And so, as we try to get the armor off, which we did, that armor now is broken. We can deal our regular damage again. Keep it up. Now, Boreus, other than those, he's not that special behemoth. Those ice, his ice form, his little minions, pretty much the only thing that you have to watch out for. And, let's see. In terms of parts, his legs are usually the prime part you want to go after just because they're the easiest to hit. But his head is pretty good, it's pretty easy to hit. Same thing with his sword. Like the sword on my build, I have sharpen on, so that allows me to do just a tad bit more part damage. And that overall helps against the Boreus. And there we go, Boreus is dead. Alright, so now we are at round 2 for Dreadrod Boreus. I'm now switching to the axe, and with this axe build, it's more of what the players of the community called Half-Life, utilizing these 3 skills: Iceborne, Rage, and Wild Frenzy. Now all of them have a similar effect when you're under 50% health, and to their respective bonuses. So Iceborne gives defense, Rage gives damage, and Wild Frenzy gives attack speed. And let's go in. So the main premise when using axe is a very slow hitting weapon, but probably can deal the biggest amount of damage in terms of burst damage, meaning that it does enough in one swing compared to, for example, the sword last round. Sword can probably do 1,000 damage in 5 hits, while an axe can probably do it in 1. Same map, same deal, but a different build. Collect all the gatherables that you can, because gatherables are much needed when wanting to make these tonics and potions, whatever you want to call them. But I won't go too much in detail, as that I'm not going to be using them in terms of these fights. Same spot. Alright, so when using the axe, there's usually 2 specials that people talk about. That's Relentless, not Relentless, Flight of Ruin or Grim Onslaught. Now, Grim Onslaught was the one that I just used right here, and what it's meant to do is just yeet the axe as far as possible and deal as much damage as possible. And so, because of that, you do a lot of damage for no good reason. Now, there's probably 3 things about the axe I want to talk about. 1, the resolve, the 2, determination, and 3, how to build up your meter. So we'll go in order from that. And so, first of all comes your meter. Your meter in the top left is built by using your charge hits. And your charge hits, they have 3 levels of charge. And on the 3rd level of charge, if you let go, there's a golden ring. That golden ring represents how you get invincibility frames. And those invincibility frames allow you to pretty much hit through any attack. Like if the behemoth were to attack you, then you can hit right through it. And then let's see. So that is the resolve, and that's the meter. Now, as you see, those charge attacks build up the meter like crazy. Now, I'm currently at a level 2 charge, but what I would want at to get maximize the most damage is level 3. To do that would be the R1 special. Now, in this case, I have Grim Onslaught, and as long as you hit, that meter will then reset back to 0, but your level of charge will go up. As you see, it says extra 50% damage, meaning that now all my attacks will, of course, do 50% extra damage. Now, sadly, this meter does not go above 3. It only goes above 3 when you have a certain mod on that's overcharged cylinder, which you do not get that until later in the game. Now, we go into round 3, Round 3 is now the hammer. And the way we have the hammer is that hammer is mostly another very slow yet hits hard weapon. Now, what makes the hammer different from other games is that it's more or less it's a hammer with bullets. Now, these bullets can be used in two ways. They can be a shotgun pellet or they can grant a buff. I'm currently not using the shotgun pellet mod where it makes so that you can shoot a blast, but I'm using the buff. Now, when using the buff, you can of course use it, and depending on how long you hold it for, depends how long the buff would last. Now, when using the buff, you need to do this reload thing at the bottom. Timing your R1 in the green will allow you to reload while sprinting, while if you fail, it will cause the character to stand still, resulting into just kind of like a stagger moment for the Slayer itself. Now with the buff, it does exactly is that it grants you movement speed for just a tad bit, and it grants you a damage buff, which is surprisingly really good when you stack it on with perks such as Knockout Gang. Now similar to the Axe build though, this is another Half-Life build using Iceborne Rage and a Wild Frenzy. So, oh my bad, misclick. Now, if I wasn't stuck in a corner, I would explain about the Aether charge shots, if I can land it. There we go. So as you can see, the bullets in my top left corner of the screen, they're now a different color compared to everything else. These represent the Aether charge shots, which they do way more damage. And all you need to do is land that last hit to that Aether strike attack, which is 1, 2, oh, never mind. 1, 2, 3, and then a triangle. Well, for console. For PC, it'd be a right click, and for Xbox, it would be Y, if I remember correctly. And for Nintendo Switch, I think, if I remember correctly, I think it's X. Do not quote me on that, though. So now, Boreus kind of gets beat up the same way when with all these weapons in terms of Iceborne. You kind of just gotta whack it until the armor wears off. But once it does, he becomes a slaughterhouse. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there we go. That is Boreus dead. In a nutshell. Keep your buff up. Alright, so we move on to round 5, and now we have Chainblades. Chainblades are probably one of the community's most favorite weapons, just due to the fact of how much damage it can deal and how fast it attacks. Now, this is a different type of build compared to the last two. This one is a Predator build, meaning that I'm trying not to get hit. I'm trying to be perfect for this. And so we have Predator, which that 35 extra damage is really good as long as you don't get hit, because you have to wait another 15 seconds to get that bonus back. Now I have comboed that with Rage, and so that gives me an extra 60% damage. Now to make sure I don't get hit, I have Discipline on, which is a late game sell. You don't need Discipline for like a Predator set. It just gives me extra damage overall. And let's go into the hunt, and I'll show you how Chainblades work. Now, Chainblades also are a bit different in that sense, because Chainblades have a different dash in terms of using your dodge. Their dash teleport ability is a whole lot different compared to the standard roll. And because of this, you can get places much faster, and your times can be much shorter if you get a good spawn. So when using Chainblades, they have the two specials that you get, the one you start off with and the one you get from the Master Grind. The one from the Master Grind is, it's okay. I wouldn't suggest using it. You will deal more damage using the first one that you get, which is, in this case, Reaper's Dance. And the way Reaper's Dance works is that a lot of people get this confused, and that Reaper's Dance allows you to build stacks. Now these stacks will show up as chainblade icons, like right there. Now, of course, you can hide in the air, and that little air pocket will keep you up there, and it has a little bit of iframes, but I wouldn't bank on it for saving yourself. And I would always suggest to keep it as a last resort dodge. Like, you always have enough stamina, and it's always regenerating as long as you're not spamming your heavy attacks, your long range attacks. Now, your square attacks are probably going to be your primary use of what you want, because your square attacks, they don't use any stamina, and they proc some other skills that you get later in the game. Now, as you see in the top left, I have a +8 stack right now on Reaper Stance. And I'm playing +9, +10. And now, should be able to land this. Now, instead of doing the light attack dodge, and so if you use your special, then use the light attack, you dash in. But if you use your special, then a heavy attack, you do that little twirl spin. That twirl spin releases every single stack that you generate, and it leads to big numbers. Like, for example, the highest I've hit has been 18 grand so far, but that's chain blades, and chain blades are fast, they're powerful, they're good overall. Now, as we go on to the final round of Boreus, we are now going in with the strikers, the newest weapon added to the game. And strikers, what I forgot to mention with hammers is that strikers fall in the same categories as they are considered blunt weapons, which meaning that they do more damage towards the head. So if, for example, if I were doing 500 damage to the head, if I were hitting the legs or arms, tail, I would only be doing about 250. Now that does not count towards total part damage, like your yellow, but that does count towards the blue damage that you do. Now, there are 4 types of damage in this game. You have part damage, which is yellow, basic damage, which is gray, you have blue damage, which is stagger, and then you have your wound damage, which is red. Now, you saw the work by Gidil was doing the red damage. That was the wounds, making it bleed blue. Now, part damage is mixed in with your raw damage, your gray, so it looks inflated. But if you look closely on the screen, there is blue damage. And that blue damage is total towards your stagger. And stagger is whenever the behemoth has those little stars around its head. Very useful, and probably one of the strongest things in the game right now. Just like that. Because Boreus is on the ground, allows you to have some free extra hits, dealing much needed damage to kill it if in very fast times. Now, strikers, probably one of the strongest weapons in the game right now, hands down. But they are very fun. I personally love using them. They were a great addition to the game. And another thing about strikers, though, is that you have these 3 little bars in the top left corner. You have 1, 2, and 3i. That represents the 3 combos that you can do. Now, I'm not going to go in full depth into what these combos are, because this is more about the behemoth. But what I will say is that you want to try to have all 3 buffs up. And in terms of this, I do. And when fighting Boreus, passive burn damage allows me to break all the parts. Now, there's not necessarily anything special about the parts that you should break, but his legs and head, all his parts cause him to stagger just a tad bit, and which allows him to dish out just a tad bit more damage. Now, that is my opinion on all 7 weapons against Boreus. There's not that much of a difference between all the weapons because of his ice armor. It's more just whack him until he dies. Breaking the ice armor is good and all. Make sure you always kill the minions, and I will